We did it. 1,000 subscribers. Time to celebrate. Let's get out of here and take a walk. So fun to get out in the woods like this. Stretch our legs. We're walking through Jeffrey Park in Bexley, Ohio, which is basically part of Columbus. And the length of this walk is about half the width of an Indian City tree belt, which is about 900 meters. So we're walking about 450 meters today. And this is a very heavily used park because it's the only patch of green for a couple miles in any direction, unlike in Eden where the towns are completely enclosed by tree belts. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. When I started the channel a couple of years ago, gosh, almost, I guess 3 years ago, it gained about 17 subscribers due to complete and utter neglect. So when I relaunched it, it was something that I didn't have really high hopes for in the short run. I was just going to stick with it essentially forever, for however long it took to get the message out there. So it's been a real thrill to see it grow as fast as it has and for you to be part of it. I'm over by the waterfront. I think you can see it behind me. It's just, well, not waterfront, it's the Alum Creek. And it's one of several parallel creek systems that run roughly north to south through Columbus. And if I were to do tree belts for Columbus, it would be pretty easy. You just run them along the creeks and then connect them with tree belts running perpendicular to them. And that's just basically how it works. Water will run downhill along creeks, and then you want to catch water on lines of constant contour, and there you have it. It's you end up with the gridded system in Eden, except in rare instances where the topography is a lot more convoluted. But then probably you're geographically bounded, and there'd be questions about whether you want to grow a city in that location. So let's see. I just wanted to say that it's been really exciting seeing how enthusiastic people are about the channel. The response, if you were to guess, thumbs up versus thumbs down. I know you don't see the thumbs down, but I see them. What would you guess? It's been 92.5% thumbs up, which I'm pretty happy with, because what we're doing is challenging a way of life that didn't come about by accident. Trillions of dollars were spent over many generations to pair people's identity with cars. Goodness, I think they're trimming the trees over there, so hopefully I'm audible over that. What Eden does is very challenging of something that runs very deep by design. Car culture runs deep, is part of many people's identity, and I'm challenging that with Eden. So, you know, it gets some very strong emotional responses, and given that, I'm actually really pleased with how thoughtful people have been about it. So, again, just a real sense of gratitude for that. Even when people are very emotional, when people use very abusive language, I know it's coming from a place of trying to protect something that goes very deep to their identity and to their sense of security. So I don't really hold it against them. If it is really abusive, I do delete the comments. I want this to be a place where people feel that they're not going to be bullied. So I do draw the line somewhere. So that has hopefully kept the discussion a little bit civil. Goodness, I'm getting up close to the water. I guess I'll try and talk a little bit quieter so I don't ruin somebody's day here. There's nobody here. Unless they're playing hide and seek. Anyway, have a look behind me. See the See the waterfowl behind me? Really lovely day to be out. So listen, the episode that really put us over the top and meant that I got to do this episode a week or two earlier than expected was the bike episode, the short. It's gotten quite a lot of views. So I thought I'd just spend a few minutes talking a little bit about that. A few people thought I got a bad deal because I could certainly get a better e-bike for a lot less than $4,000. But bear in mind that I bought that bike in 1994. Oh, you know what? It's so noisy over there. Let's go back to the water. I'm going to have to walk this way with a selfie stick in future walks because it seems to be catching spider webs, which is great for me. But it means people haven't been this way for a while. Where were we? Oh yeah. So there were no e-bikes. There were no cargo bikes in 1994. Those were just not options. So I had to add those as those technologies became available and as my need arose for them. So that's how that happened. A few other people took issue with my numbers. You know, of course, when you're going to quote numbers, there's always going to be cases where it just doesn't apply to some people's lives. And so people said, hey, my car costs less than that. In fact, some people said, why are you comparing a truck to a bike? Why aren't you comparing a bike to a car? Well, the top 5 cars in Ohio, the top 5 best-selling cars in Ohio, are all trucks. A couple of them, I think, bigger than the ones that I showed in the short. So I think it's perfectly fair to compare trucks to bikes because that's what's selling these days. I did use the bank rate numbers, which are based on the lifetime cost of the car divided by the number of years, which is typically 12 years that a car is in service. So those are not my numbers. I used the $8,000 came from the year that I sold the bike because basically that would track inflation through the rest of the life of the bike. And then as far as the $100 went for each of the 25 years just for maintenance and upgrading the handlebars and stuff. Yeah, that was not inflated, so it probably cost me more than that if you inflated the maintenance. I really did spend about $100 a year keeping the bike in top shape. But isn't it remarkable that the bike sold for what I bought it at after 25 years? And yeah, there were upgrades, but it had certainly been through plenty of wear and tear, blizzards and so forth. So it didn't owe me anything, really. All right, other cost issues. Yeah, people also took issue with the $80,000. They said, $80,000 earned is not the same as $80,000 saved. And to which I say, thank goodness, because we're talking about money in my pocket that wouldn't have been there if I hadn't been riding the bike. And if I had to earn that money, it would have been taxed. Earnings are taxed. So to get $80,000 in my pocket, that would have been over 25 years, either $3,200 a year saved or $5,200 if I earned it, because I'd have to pay a couple $1,000s tax per year on it, unless I did really clever things with the money, which would then remove it from easy day-to-day use. And believe me, I put it to good uses, one of which was making sure to have enough time to take off so that I could really properly launch this channel. So that was one of the many uses that I put that $80,000 for. Several people came to my aid saying things like, I didn't even account for the money that I saved in gym memberships and in the money that I didn't have to spend on healthcare. And this is really true as we become really clear in the next episode, which gets into the advantages of walkable cities and how to do it right. And it turns out there's some really unusual twists that Edenicity brings to it that I don't think anyone else is talking about. So you won't want to miss that. Be sure you subscribe for that. Of course you are. I expect it's like 100% subscribers watching this, and thank you. The final thing that people mentioned was dating. And I get it. People made some really funny comments. I kept them in there, snarky but funny, saying the 7 years that I went car-free were 7 years of no dating, and the hats were off to me for being a monk and stuff like that. And believe me, I understand that. Every time I bought a car when I was single, one of the thoughts that crossed my mind is, well, okay, things are going to get easier for a while now. And they did. But you know what? This is the really important point. Of my top 3 long-term relationships, 2 of them began when I was car-free. Think about that. And The first of them, my first girlfriend out of college, made it really clear to me that it was my bicycling that really put me on her radar. That's been a lesson that stayed with me, that these things are not so complicated. If you're happy with your life, if you're not ashamed of how you're living, you're as attractive as you can possibly be. And you're going to be having the best outcome. And as far as how you get around, whether by car or by bike, the logistics in the US do suck if you're car free. But when you're driving around, especially when I was in Honolulu, traffic is so intense that picking someone up for a date is kind of a bummer because your attention is divided, kind of like it is right here, but not like it is right here because there's traffic and the possibility of instant death all around you. So there was a certain layer of stress on those dates. I've been on plenty of dates that were car-free, either bicycling or more often by bus. And those were much, much lower stress, where you could just kind of hang out and be yourselves and interact and kind of observe the world around you in a very easygoing way, where you're not really assessing threats all the time. And so I heartily recommend, even in the US, car-free dating. I think it's a great way to go, if you can do it in a way that's not with a feeling of shame or lack or apology for bicycling. Now, if there's any people from Holland, I think you're probably, from the Netherlands, you're probably watching this and kind of going, wow, really? It's that bad there? Yeah, of course it is. But it's still worth giving the car-free lifestyle a go if you can do it in a way where you're happy to just to do it and be yourself. All right, we have reached, right behind me, this fenced area is the end of this walk here. So we've got, again, halfway through the width of a Edenicity tree belt. So it would be twice as thick, and of course it would go on for miles in this direction here. So I think that would be quite exciting to have cities like that, and have that be within at most a 9-minute bike ride from anywhere in the city, with the reference design that you can get on the site. There's kids playing behind me, a little playground at the edge of this woods. It's really a tiny woods. I'll show you on the map. I'll probably do another one of these take a walk with me videos when we reach 10,000 subscribers. Please don't make me walk through the snow. Actually, I'd be delighted, of course. But till then, take care, be green. See you next time.